It's Luke and Susie with you for Faith, Family, Culture. I'm excited to catch up with our next guest, mostly because she always just brings that reinvigoration into getting things organised in our life.
Lately, she's been trash talking me. That's what you love too.
Well, I just like her support. But I also like that we're going to be talking today about a subject I've started seeing. You know how videos sometimes pop up on your screen, and I seem to be getting a lot about hoarding at the moment.
Play. Oh, yeah, okay. You mean in the
I
feed
obviously
and stuff.
clicked one hoarding video, and now they're coming up all the time. But this is what we're going to talk about today.
Susie has often accused me of hoarding when it comes to my old technical equipment and my computer cords. Little Miss Organised, Bonnie Black is with us right now. Hoarding, how big an issue is it, and what's the difference between someone just keeping some stuff that might be useful and actually hoarding?
That is a great question. So the studies have shown that hoarding actually affects 2 to 5% of the population, but researchers believe it could be even higher because it's a bit of a shameful condition that a lot of people do not like to talk about. So the difference between someone who has hoarding disorder and, your great aunt Mildred, who's got a lot of stuff in her house, is people who have hoarding disorder is they generally have an inability to let go of things, whether it's rubbish or otherwise. They have a constant need to acquire. And then the third factor is that clutter and that hoard of items starts impacting their daily life. So you might go to someone's house and they can't use their shower because the shower is too full of clutter, or maybe the electricity has had to be switched off because it's a rented property and the landlord wasn't allowed in to go and fix it, or a tradesperson couldn't get in to fix it. So it's when it starts impacting daily life in some way that's kind of that third key point to click it over into hoarding disorder.
So I think it's fair to say that my box of kettle cords, Suze, doesn't do any of that, so it's okay.
That's just a bugbear for Susie.
It is. Yeah. It really is.
I did throw out some old telephone cabling there is no way in any way, shape or form I'm ever going to get to use that again.
How hard was it?
Oh, that was pretty. It was a little pang. It was like,
a little pang, was it?
No, it was a little like, is there any circumstance where this might come in handy? Oh, even if there is, I could just buy another one.
Is that a part of the clue if we're prone to hoarding that it hurts to let go of stuff, or is that just a natural response?
I think it's a bit of a natural response because people who have hoarding disorder, it's more than just I don't really want to get that. It can feel like your arm's being ripped off. So I had a client years ago who was never able to have children, and she had this, couple of hundred soft toy collection. And I asked her, are there any that you feel like you could let go of? And it was a big process, and it took probably an hour until she could finally pick 3. And the goodbye ceremony to say goodbye to those. And she said to me afterwards, I feel like I'm giving away my children. Oh. So it's much more than a pang.
Yeah, okay.
So for me, it wasn't ripping a limb off. It was just a little leg hair.
Just little leg hair. Yeah.
Yeah, which us women do all the time. So suck it up.
So if we are recognizing ourselves as having potentially this disorder, or we know someone in our life who we love and care about who is experiencing this, what would you suggest as the best thing to do?
So first thing of all is to actually have, if it's a friend or a family member that you think they're kind of struggling with, is to sit down in a safe space, have a conversation with them, and it's got to be a conversation that doesn't have any agenda brought into it, and it's got to be in a neutral place, that kind of thing. I recognise that, there's a lot going on. How do you feel about your home? Because often we have our standards that we put onto others, and that person may not be feeling like it's actually a problem. So if it's for a friend or family member, having that conversation, just getting it started is a really good thing. If it's for yourself and you recognise, hey, actually those 3 traits apply to me, it's good to go online and look up some resources. So there's a few different resources that we have in Australia, which is really good. We have things like our Little Home Organised podcast, where we've done a couple of episodes with Dr. Randy Frost, who's a world-leading researcher into hoarding disorder. We've got a couple of episodes with Lee and Beck Shua, and Lee's actually a recovering space invader. And there's another website called Hoarding Home Solutions, where you can go and do an online course. But one of the coolest things that's actually coming out in the next couple of months is the Buried in Treasures workshops, which have been around for a few years now. And there's a book that goes along with them. And basically it's like a group kind of therapy setting where they go through a chapter of the book together each week over 16 weeks. And these have always been very sparse and very difficult to get people connected into, sometimes because of the cost and there's just not a lot of them running. But Lee and Beck Schua from Mutual Support Consulting, they have actually just managed to run a couple of trial groups over the last 6 months going virtual, and they are going to be starting some Australian time-based groups. So that's a really great resource for people who are wanting to get involved and get on top of their hoarding disorder and maybe have some access to a really supportive environment that's going to help the process go a lot smoother.
What was that called again?
So Mutual Support Consulting, or if you look up our Little Home Organised podcast, we've just done an episode with Lee and Beck called Buried in Treasures, and we talk about it a little bit more in there.
Well, make sure
Beautiful.
you check out that podcast. Little Miss Organised, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.